Welcome to today's webinar, and thank you so much for joining myself, Paula Quinsee, and my colleague, Arpad Szakal in the UK. And today we're going to be sharing some insights with you around how to reinvent your career, whether that's been impacted due to COVID, or whether you're in the job search arena, or just because you want to know more about this topic. And so let's start off, Arpad, with that first question in terms of what are some of the things that you are seeing or that people are talking about when it comes to their careers being impacted by COVID?
It's really, I think the grieving is probably the stage one that you have to go through. I think grief is something that a lot of people don't think about in a job search or a job loss context, but I think it's very similar to what a lot of people are experiencing when you lose a loved one. I mean, it's a relationship that ended, and until you really get through that and really just come to terms with the loss, you can't effectively get on with the search. It's basically going through the 5 stages of grief. I think that's the number one step, and then basically you need to just be very, very honest with yourself and really realistic, because it's unlikely that you will just be able to get a job at the same level where you left it off. There's an insane competition no matter where you are in the world right now. It's whether it's South Africa, whether it's the UK, whether it's Germany, whether it's the US. I mean, a few weeks ago there was a pub role advertised here in my local area, and apparently the pub itself received over 500 applications for that particular role, mainly from PhD students.
Sure.
So I think this is what people really need to realize, that just think broadly, think interim roles, think contract roles, think freelance positions. I think those are the sort of arrangements that you really need to give considerations. I think just hoping that a full-time permanent role will become available and you will just be able to resume where you left it off, I think that's unrealistic. I think it's basically thinking about alternative ways of being employed. I'm talking about contracts, short-term assignments. I think that's the current reality, and I think that's going to be a reality for a lot of people for a long time. I don't know, how do you see that, Paula? Is it something that you see around where you are based as well?
Yeah, so there definitely are a lot of people that have been impacted and that have lost their jobs or that are needing to find a secondary source of income. And some companies have put a freeze on positions because of the economic impact on the business point of view, and businesses just really, a lot of them trying to survive, let alone make a profit at this stage. And so a lot of job positions have been put on freeze, and then there are a lot of opportunities that are coming up in terms of the online, the remote working websites for contract work or part-time work. Obviously here with a lot of places still being closed or under socialization restrictions, a lot of places are only operating at half capacity, things like restaurants and coffee shops and stuff like that, because we're still under those regulations and curfews and stuff that we have to operate at. So yeah, I think it is tough out there. But what would you say in terms of a strategy for job searching should someone look at if they are in this position where they're starting to look for something? What kind of strategy can they put in place?
Probably the best way to do it is not to wait for a role to come up on a job site, because that is unlikely to happen. I think it's basically you need to be, what I normally tell people is to really just be very proactive and set up informational interviews. Informational interview being when you are approaching another individual who works at an organization where you would ideally like to end up with, and really just making sure that they understand that you are not going to ask them for a job. I think that's really important to say it in your email or in your LinkedIn approach, that you are not going to take up a lot of time, and basically try to give some value to the person that you are speaking to. I think it's very important to see how you can bring some value to the person that you are approaching as well, so that it's mutual. I think broadening your network, really going out there proactively, I think that's probably the best method of landing any job these days, because 80% of the roles, Paula, as you know, are not advertised. You will never hear from them. I mean, otherwise my role in executive search would not exist if all jobs would be advertised. It's especially the mid to senior level roles are just they don't appear on job sites. You need to be well informed. You need to basically build up connections, long-term connections, with a view of really building on those. So not a one-off call and then you never talk to the person again, but basically try to develop an actual relationship with the person in that organization. It doesn't have to be a lot of people, but you really need to have 2, 3, 4 trusted connections, and they can refer you. I mean, when they need someone, or when they hear of an opportunity, then they can get back to you basically, and they can really just make you aware that this is happening, and submit an application. I think also using the time effectively. I mean, obviously treating a job search as a full-time job is the only way to go, but you can't do this non-stop. You can't do this 8 hours a day, because it's incredibly demotivating when you're not hearing from people, when you're not hearing the good news, when you keep rejecting. You keep being rejected. It's a very difficult road on your own, especially if you're doing it in a lockdown. I mean, it's very difficult when it's in the normal times, let alone when you're isolating from the outside world. And you know, most people who pick up the phone to me or get in touch with me, I find they're not really out there for support with a CV or for the support with an interview preparation. I think they're out there to just talk to someone really, and they have that human contact. Although it's on a WhatsApp, I think it's basically that human connection is the one thing that people are craving for at the moment. I don't know if you're experiencing that in your practice, Paula, but that's the one thing that is common across the board, basically. That's what I'm noticing.
Definitely. I mean, we and it's a global thing that we're seeing around the world in terms of the stats and increased. People experiencing increased emotions of anxiety, overwhelm, depression, substance abuse, even thoughts of suicide as well. A lot of those things we're seeing spikes of. Then the divorce rate as well, because of the impact on personal relationships. And, you know, picking up on what you said earlier about, you know, dealing with rejection and doing this as a full-time thing, you know, when we feel like we are being rejected day in, day out, it definitely has an impact on our sense of self-worth, our self-esteem, our self-belief, our self-value. And the risk is it can lead us down that big black rabbit hole of heading down towards depression. I think these are some of the signs that people need to be aware of. What are the red flags to look out for in terms of your motivation levels? Where are you feeling at about yourself? And that rejection is not about you, and to as difficult as it is, but to not take it personally. It's not about you as the person, it's about the position and your qualifications or your CV or your skills or your competencies. And how do you find a way to separate the two? And how can you take the information or the insights from the feedback, if you are lucky enough to get feedback? And I think this is where recruiters and companies can definitely up their skills and the way they interact and relate with candidates, is giving proper feedback as to why they potentially didn't get the position, to help them take that knowledge and take that information forward as part of their strategy and either tweak, refine, define, rebuild themselves for the next position, to perhaps have a better chance at getting the next position that may come along. So rejection is not a person, it is an event. And to not take it personally, it doesn't mean you as a person or a failure, it's just feedback. And what insights can I take from the feedback? What do I need to kind of discard as irrelevant, and how do I use that as information to move me forward in my job search?
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, I would agree with you. Recruiters and search professionals need to up their game when it comes to feedback, but you also need to bear in mind that these people, especially now, they are working with there's a great volume of applications that they need to get through, even with automatization and even with the electronic tools that they use. It's very time consuming, and giving feedback to everyone who has not been successful, I think that's as bad as it sounds, it's not the best use of their time. And this is why you don't hear back. And you never hear back, because it's just not what they're paid to do. It's basically, as a recruiter, Paula, you're not there to recruit people in. You're there to weed them out, basically, and make sure that they don't come in. That's what people don't realize, that basically they are not for you. It's like HR within an organization is not for you. It's to protect the company's interests. I mean, it's, as bad as it sounds, they're not there to protect your interests. I mean, it's basically it's vice versa. Just like with a recruiter. I mean, it's just very important to know that, because this is how people think, especially recruiters. Basically, I'm there to disqualify you. Yeah. That's what the job is about. So it's just I thought I would share that with the audience, because I think it's better to know that now than not know that and then hope that someone will get back to me. The other thing that I wanted to really just make sure that we cover, we talked about reskilling and upskilling. My best advice would be for anyone who's now in a position that they're having to reorientate themselves and having to look for a job. Split your day up into manageable chunks. Spend 2 hours in the morning on effective, like sending out CVs, working on your CV, like job searching and everything associated to it. But spend the vast majority of your time with really things like gaining a new set of skills that will really set you up for an interview for an entirely new position or something that you've not done before. It's a good way to really just keep your brain functioning, keep yourself occupied, have some successes. I think it's very important if you do an online course, if you do a certification. I mean, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel really on top of things. I think it's very important to have these positive affirmations during the day as well, and learning, skills development, utilizing opportunities to practice a skill online, for example. I think these are things that are very important to keep you sane I think that's probably the best way to put it. That I don't know if you have any experience on that side of things, or if you yourself have done something like this in the past. But I know for myself that when I went through a transition, or when I had to look for a job, that's how I split up the time that I had.
Yeah, so before I answer that question, I just want to say to people that have tuned in and are listening in, if you have any specific questions for us or something you want us to pick up on, please do post it in the chat box, your question, and we will answer it. Or if you want to unmute yourself or put your hand up, and we will absolutely would love to hear from you. We want to be able to add value to you while you're here. So please tap into both of our skills and our different areas of expertise. So I know that you work a lot with the aviation industry and the pilots, and obviously that sector has been hugely impacted, and with them having to upskill themselves or redeploy themselves into completely different industries. So, how have you helped them recraft their CVs or recraft their skills and their knowledge as a pilot, for example, to now go and be employed in a corporate world? Because I think a lot of people are facing a similar situation where they've been employed in an industry or a type of role, but they're now perhaps having to pivot and go into different areas. So the process, I'm assuming, would be similar, but how have you worked with them to do this?
I think it's first and foremost creating the awareness that they have those skills. I think it's a lot of pilots or a lot of flight crews are completely unaware of the skills that they possess that comes with the job. I think it's basically, for them, it's second nature. They never thought about it in terms of skills or in terms of added benefits or value. And I think it's basically just the way I do it is going through one by one, basically like, where did you use this? How can you use that in a different sort of context? Give me an example for the leadership skills, for the project management skills, for the conflict resolution skills. I think these are the things that you need to make individuals aware. But also employers, Paula, I think the reason why there are so many people struggling in the industry, very well qualified, tech-savvy people, is because employers outside of the aviation sector are not really clear themselves what these highly qualified people possess and can add to their operations. I think there's an awful lot of education that needs to go into both sides, the candidates and also the potential employers. And I think there's an awful lot more that needs to be done on that, especially educating employers. Highlighting these things on the CV is one thing. I think what a lot of people struggle with is coming up with specific examples for all of this, because a lot of people basically what people do is essentially copy and paste their job descriptions or previous job descriptions and specifications, and basically they provide a laundry list of things that they were responsible for. Well, that's not going to get you anywhere. I mean, it's basically, a lot of people don't realize is that everything needs to be laser sharply tailored for what the employer asked for. A cover letter, for example, the reason why a lot of people ask for a cover letter is for them to have another tool to disqualify you with. Because basically a lot of people just regurgitate whatever they said in the CV, for example, in a cover letter, which is of course not what you're supposed to do there. What you're supposed to do there is basically give a little bit of color, give a little bit of examples, go into some detail, and really just make it interesting, add some like explain what is the added value, what is the UPS, the unique or the unique value proposition, the UVS that you are bringing. And a lot of people struggle with that. It's not something that we got educated on. It's not something that is taught in schools, and it shows. It shows, and a lot of people in the industry haven't had to do this for a long time, Paula. I think a lot of people, like 15 years, 20 years, even more, and they are now confronted with the realities of what a job search means, really. And a lot of people adopt this what I call the spray and pray approach, that basically they're just sending out a generic CV to various employers in various sectors, and they're hoping that someone will take pity on them. Well, no one will take pity on them, because employers have plenty of qualified candidates to choose from, and they will want to go for the best. And the unfortunate reality is that even if you fulfill 9 out of 10 criterias that the employer is looking for, that may not be enough today, because there will be plenty of people out there who will fulfill 10 out of 10. So that's something to bear in mind, that just be very selective and very, very mindful of the type of roles that you are applying for, because just do yourself a favor and only apply for things that you genuinely have the skills for, and you stand the chance of getting. That would be my piece of advice, because if you don't follow this, and if you basically just send it to 15 different places, it's not going to get you anywhere. It's yeah. How do you view this, Paula? What would be your take on it?
Yeah. So I'm definitely seeing or experiencing people that are feeling lost, like they don't have an identity anymore, and I'm seeing it from both sides. People that have lost their jobs as a result, but also, you know, people that are working from home in terms of remote working, because going to work, belonging to an organization and a team gives us a sense of identity. It's a sense of purpose. I've got something that gets me out of bed every day. And so for those people that have lost their jobs, they're definitely feeling that sense of identity, that I don't belong anywhere, I don't fit in anywhere, they're hanging in limbo. Yes, they're trying job searching, and sometimes it gets to a point where it is out of desperation, because it's about survival, you know. And when we lose our job and we lose our income, it talks to our very basic human survival, that psyche of putting a roof over my head and food on my table and providing for my family, if you have a family. So it talks to that very basic level of survival. And obviously when you start messing with that basic level of survival, then fear and panic sets in, and then that desperation sets in. So I understand, you know, when you say some people do a spray and pray approach, because they do get to that panic stage. And then I'm seeing it with people that are working from home in terms of remote working. You know, we all have, and you will know from doing assessments like I do, we have different profile types, different personality types. Some people are just those kind of people where they need a structured environment to be able to function and effectively, and going to the office provides that structure for them. And now having to find their own structure or put their own structure in place at home, they struggle with that, and it does affect their productivity on levels. And then obviously the opposite profile types who are quite happy to stay at home. I don't want to label too much, but I'm talking about more the introvert types that like to work on their own or alone. They're thriving working from home. And I think this is where companies are going to be really challenged when they do start wanting to come back to the office full time, for those companies that are going to make those decisions, is do they go a blended approach? Do they have people working from home and the office, depending on your role? So a customer-facing role, for example, we need you in the office, versus those that, well, if you're doing so well and it works for you and you're productive, then work from home. Or are they going to force everybody to come back to work? Or, you know, I've had some corporate clients that are going, well, we're not even thinking about going back to work. We'll assess it in January next year again. So there's all of this uncertainty going on and these unknown factors. And then from a human psyche point of view, we crave certainty, which gives us stability. And when we have stability, it reduces our levels of anxiety and fear and overwhelm and all of those things. So I'm definitely seeing it from that level here.
Yeah. And when organizations are looking for these remote workers, obviously the things that they are looking for are obviously technical savvy. You don't have to be familiar with all the tools, but you need to be able to really just operate the ones that are the most well-known ones, like the Zooms and all that, and have the interest to learn about other things. But also organization, self-motivation, the drive, the collaboration. I think talking about drive, it's so difficult to really just get engaged. I think really employee engagement, really creating a culture, those are the things I think that are very difficult to do and maintain over Zoom. I mean, there is a reason why we go into an office space. There is a reason why we share a space together. I think it just adds to the mental health issues that people are developing basically as we speak. I think it's the flexibility, the freedom, the fact that you can do other things at home. I think that's one thing. I mean, it's obviously that it has a lot of positives to it, but it has more negatives. I think it's when it comes to developing new relationships, for example, if you're a business development manager, or if you're in sales, I think maintaining old relationships is one thing, and you can do that, I think, over video conferencing. But when it comes to really signing new contracts, making new deals, developing trustful relationships over Zoom or Teams, I think that's very difficult, and I think a lot of companies are struggling with that. And again, engagement, making sure that your employees are enthusiastic, they really care about it, they really have the drive, the determination to succeed. Not doing that in a proper team environment, where you have the face-to-face contact, I think that's going to be an issue for the foreseeable future, and I don't have the answers basically how to mitigate that. Because even if you get a job, for example, as a job seeker, let's take it from a job seeker's perspective. Basically, you go through all that, the interviews, the online assessments, or what have you. The loneliness will not go away because you will not walk into an office, Paula. You are basically, you will keep working from home, you will keep based at home, and basically nothing will change in your day-to-day. And this is why engaging in other activities which have absolutely nothing to do with your work or your job search is absolutely crucial. Because although, yeah, I talked about treating a job search like a full-time job, you can't, because you can't dedicate 8 hours to it every day. I would say 2 hours, 3 hours max is what you can do. Otherwise, you will just give up very, very quick.
I think you make some important points there, particularly where loneliness is concerned, and there's enough research out there. In fact, there was already research being done last year before the pandemic hit us, and they've done studies in Australia, the UK, the US, that the impact of chronic loneliness on our immune system is the equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Yeah.
Now, of course, with the pandemic, the biggest thing that we need is our immune system to keep us healthy and fighting this virus.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a catch-22, because if I am in that space where I am feeling lonely and disconnected and isolated, how do I not let it affect my mental health and my emotional state, to obviously keep my motivation going and reaching out and connecting and looking for jobs? And then on the other hand, from a health point of view, in terms of keeping myself safe, so it's this constant juggle. And so let's talk about some of those coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
In terms of, what are some of the things that you can do to help you cope when you are feeling like you're going into that deep, dark space? Because I know I've experienced it. In fact, as recent as last week, I was in a bit of a dark space myself.
Yeah. No, I mean, my top tips would be get a job search buddy, someone who you can really bounce ideas from, someone who will listen to you, someone who really can challenge you. You probably don't want to enlist the close family members, as they can get more emotionally involved. But I think seeking out a mentor, seeking out a former colleague that you can trust, and to keep things confidential, obviously, I think that's absolutely important, really. Some people decide to get a job search work team together, I don't know, 5-6 people coming together, all in the same boat, and work as a team, updating each other how they're doing, holding themselves accountable, to focus on the key tasks that they have to get down on that day or on that week, and really just meet on a week-to-week basis to just keep each other abreast of developments, the highs and the lows, and keep each other motivated. I think it's basically these job search work teams. I think that's very effective, because then you are not alone. You have really a team, a buddy that can help and motivate you. Some people, I mean, obviously, if you can, it's very helpful to get a coach who can really just get you out of a difficult situation. If you feel stuck, if you feel that you're not getting anywhere, if you're not sure where to start with networking, with the interview skills, with CV skills, I think those are the things that maybe an hour or 2 or 3 with a coach who can really just really make sure that you get from A to B. I think that's the and who can hold you accountable. I mean, that's the whole point of a coach, to really just make sure that you are actually doing something about it. That's probably. So again, community. Don't do this, or don't try to do this completely on your own, because it will not get you anywhere. You will find yourself in a very dark place very soon. And use LinkedIn. Make sure that basically people really, there's no shame. I mean, looking back in a year or two, there's no shame in asking for help, in making people aware that you are looking for jobs, you're job searching, you need help. Use the tools out there. Use Facebook, use LinkedIn, use TikTok, use whatever you can. Nothing is a waste of time.
And I'm definitely seeing that sense of community coming together, especially on LinkedIn. And I mean, if you saw my LinkedIn post this morning, it was actually one of my friends and colleagues that had posted it over the weekend, and I saw that he got it from someone else. And it was around, there's definitely seems to be a sense of coming together and let's help each other, because we know we're all going through this together, although we're experiencing it in different ways and we're being affected in different ways. But I'm definitely seeing on LinkedIn the sense of community coming together. Who can I put you in touch with? Comment on my post. What are you looking for? What are your skill sets? What are your strengths? You never know who's going to see you posting on my posts that may be able to open up a door for you, because you never know where those opportunities are kind of come from. Yeah. But definitely in terms of putting yourself out there, because if you don't put yourself out there, you lessen your chances of being found, so to speak. So being more proactive, having more of a presence, being really intentional about what you're posting out there on whichever platform it is, whether you're reaching out to someone privately through email or WhatsApp, or if it's on a public forum or social media forum. But definitely it's about, as you say, there's no shame. And also it's okay to not be okay. I think in the beginning of lockdown, we all put on this big facade that we've got this under control. We're going to get through this. We're going to be fine. We're going to come out, because we thought it was going to be a month or 2 or 6 weeks or whatever it was. And so, you know, that's one way. Whereas the reality is set in, and there's an indefinite now, because we don't know how long it's going on, because people are talking another 18 months, another 2 years, all those kind of things. So it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to reach out and ask for help, or say, I'm not doing okay, I'm having a bad day today.
Exactly, and avoid negative self-talk like the plague, because it's a poison. And basically, and the best way to do that is to surround yourself with positive people and seek advice, support from them, and they will make you feel good or better about yourself, basically. And obviously, needless to say, things like what you eat, what you drink, how you exercise, if you exercise, things like that have a direct impact on your emotional well-being, on your physical well-being. I think it's basically when you feel and you look your best, you have more confidence, and basically and people will notice this and respond to it positively. I think those are the things, I mean, basic things, but you need to be aware of those and really focus on those. Connecting again, informational interviews, best way to develop your network, build your business of one. You're a business of one. I mean, even if you don't want to think about it that way, because you're looking for a job, I mean, it's basically this is sales, this is marketing, this is branding. I mean, if you don't think about job search as a big marketing exercise, you're fooling yourself. And it's basically, even if you're the shy person, you can't think about it that way, because it's if you do, if you're humble, if you're basically not the bragging type of person, well, if you don't do it, others will, and they will be the ones who will get the job. So I think it's think about yourself as a business of one, because that's what you are. You're trying to sell your skills, your added benefit to an organization, basically.
I'm laughing quietly to myself as you say that, in terms of, you know, if you're not the kind to brag or put yourself out there, someone else will. And it's something that I've really struggled with myself for a good number of years, until I had to reframe it in that if I don't talk about it, nobody's going to know that I have a skill set or insight or knowledge or competency to share in that respective environment or topic or whatever it is that we're talking about. So I had to change my mindset, that it wasn't bragging, it wasn't being arrogant and you know, look at me, I'm so wonderful and amazing. It was more around, how can I show that I have value to add through my insights or my knowledge or my competency or my experience or my qualifications or whatever it might be. And I think that might be, you know, if you can reframe it in a way that works for you and that's more positive, it helps to get over that initial sort of hurdle or stumbling block. But I'm aware we've got obviously about 15 minutes left, so I wanted to just get some real value out for those that are on or may watch this afterwards, in terms of, if you are now in a position where you are looking for a job, or you know someone that's looking for a job, are there any recruitment agents or other organizations that offer a service to help job seekers or create their CVs or help them refill their, you know, reframe their skills, that's relatively inexpensive or free? Because obviously people that have lost their jobs are worried about money, and they may not have money to spend on these services or professionals.
Yeah, I mean, recruitment agencies don't normally do that. I mean, there are recruiters who are basically very, very much willing to have a look and really just provide you with some feedback on it, at least. I would say be aware of the CV writers. You know, on LinkedIn, you can see people popping up left, right, and center, saying that they will review your CV for like an extortionate amount of money. I mean, some people. The other day, I saw someone asking for like $400 or $500 for a CV review. And I think that's that's a cowboy who does that. It doesn't have to, it doesn't cost that much. And I would just make sure that basically you don't give out money for any CV writers, to be honest with you. No one can write your CV. You are the only person who knows the nitty-gritty, what you did in each role. I mean, it's basically, I can guide you, another person, like we can give you a framework of like how to present it, how you position it, what are the sort of things to watch out for. But to actually write someone else's CV, no matter how detailed your interview with them was, is a scam. It's basically, that doesn't happen, can't happen, and don't fall into that, because it's not possible to do that. Guidance is one thing, but to essentially say that I will be able to write your CV from scratch, that's fishy. So basically, we at the Center for Aviation Psychology, we provide that service. I mean, we work with organizations, with airlines, airports, providing help with their redundancy, outplacement initiatives. But we do from time to time work with individuals as well who need that help. So if you need a pair of eyes over your CV, cover letter, portfolio document, whatever it is, obviously we can have a look. Search firms, recruitment agencies, again, they don't normally do that. Some recruiters obviously are willing to take a look, to take a brief look, and provide you with some useful advice. But search firms who are looking for mid to senior level individuals, less likely. So maybe in the notes we can include some handy links to organizations that can help you with that. But, yeah.
Sure, yeah. Or otherwise, what we can do is send it out afterwards to everybody with a link to the recording of the webinar.
Yeah.
So if anybody does have any questions that you want us to answer in the last sort of 10 minutes that we've got left, please do post it in the group or in the chat box, or please put your hand up, unmute yourself. We're happy to answer. We want you to really get some value and just, you know, some sense of comfort or peace, or just insights and tools that you can take away with you. So talking about assessments, now I know from my experience of doing assessments with people is there is a sense of anxiety that comes with it. On the one hand, there's a perception that it's like a test, I'm going to pass or fail, or that it's going to expose me to my flaws, or, you know, my weaknesses, so to speak. Or whether I'm competent or not. And so there is a lot of fear and anxiety that comes with assessments. And, you know, the way that I like to work with people is obviously, you know, it's not a test, it's not a pass or fail, and it's more around it, look at it as a dipstick approach in terms of getting some deeper insights into yourself, in terms of where your strengths are, how you can leverage your strengths, but how you can also then be aware of where your development areas are, and whether you actually need to work on those because it's essential to being more effective and productive in your role, or how they can potentially work against you in stressful environments and situations, and to be aware of that as those blind spots that we're not aware of. How do you go about it?
The best advice that I give to people how to make the assessment center or the assessment day a success is practice. You can practice some of these mock assessments online. There are various websites where you can do that. You can also do case studies. You can also have a look at materials online. There are really, again, I'll send this over to you so that you can include it. There are websites where you can really prepare for even group exercises. At least it gives you a good understanding of what to expect, what they're going to be looking out for, what are the skills that they're assessing. If it's going to be a written exercise, there are plenty of resources online where you can really just organize your thoughts, read about these, and really just make sure that you're aware of what you are being assessed. I mean, again, there's plenty on things like Hogan assessment, which is used for senior leadership roles, WAVE assessment, which is used for, again, very senior mid-level roles as well. Personality aptitude test, in-tray exercises. These are all various assessment methods that people use to screen individuals, no matter the industry, Paula. It's not like this is something that aviation companies use, but it's basically these are standardized schemes and tests that businesses use all around the world, irrespective of the company, the sector. So I think practice, and informing yourself well before you have to take these tests are probably my best bets.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the more prepared you are, the better equipped you are to handle the situation and not let your stress or your anxiety get the better of you. Obviously, there is going to be some sort of level of nerves going for an interview. It's normal, it's natural. But if you are well prepared and you have looked at several situations or scenarios and role plays and that kind of thing, you're able to think better on your feet. You're able to go in there more prepared and be more in control of the situation instead of the situation taking over. And so I think with the last few minutes that we've got left, just to if there are people that are in this situation in terms of feeding the anxiety and the emotions and all of that, is to really put support structures in place. So first of all, with your inner circle being your family and friends, if you have people that you can reach out to really put that in place. If you are able to tap into employee wellness programs, if you are employed but are going through a tough time in the workplace, so perhaps your salary has been cut or something and you're coping with that financial stress and pressure, reach out to your employee wellness service providers or the national service providers in your region or your country. I obviously know who to tap into here in South Africa, but every country has its different service providers that you can tap into. Or lastly, seek a professional. But, don't let yourself get to that really low point where you are either on the edge or creeping into bouts of depression and or even suicidal thoughts. That's when you really, really need to get help.
Exactly, because that's a very dangerous territory, and unfortunately here in the UK, but also in other parts of Europe, the suicidal rates are going up, let alone the depression and all the rest of it, basically. So yeah, just take care of your mental health. That would be the main message.
Yeah, and I think daily, even if you set, if it's a small goal every day that I'm going to reach out to 3 people every day, those 2 hours in the morning that you were talking about structuring your day, in the morning, even if it's 3 people or 1 person, whatever it might be, depending on where you're at and your energy levels and motivational levels, reach out to 1, 2, 3 people, set yourself a target. Do that in the morning when your energy levels are high. Then in the sort of middle of the day or the afternoon, maybe work on yourself, whether there's lots of free online courses and webinars and seminars that you can attend to upskill yourself or read material. There's global material. Attending all these online webinars and stuff is where you can also network and meet people as well. And to keep going, and on those days where it's heavy and that, take some time out and take care of your own mental health and do what you need to do to take care of you in the process.
Yeah, exactly, because all the bad periods in life come to an end at some point. This turns out to be one of those that is going to take longer than we thought it's going to be, and just don't do it alone, because that's just very difficult, and no one is supposed to do this really on their own. And there are so many ways that you can really just build some support network around you, whether it's online or in person. I mean, in person, of course, it's tricky depending on where you are, but online certainly.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And please, anybody that's listening in, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. You never know. I have a network. I also work with some recruiters like Arpad, where I can pass your CV on or put you in touch with. They may have something. You never know. But yeah, let's connect on LinkedIn, even if it's just to have a chat and say I'm having a bad day, and I can offer a shoulder or ear of some kind of support. Please do reach out, and let's help each other.
Same goes for me as well, by the way. Anyone who would like to have a brief conversation, I mean, very happy to do that, basically, and if we can be of help, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody has any last minute questions or comments that you'd like to share with us based on what we've chatted about, or that you're walking away with today, or anything else, just other general comments and feedback. We've got kind of 2 minutes left, so floor is all yours. But otherwise, it's been so great sharing this with you all today, and thank you, Arpad, for your time and your input as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Paula. Hope it was really helpful for everyone who listened in.
Awesome.
Quick one from me, Franco. Thank you very much for organizing Paula and Arpad. Really, thank you for many very good tips. Insightful as to the CV and many things that I've taken note of, and hopefully will assist in the way ahead. So great initiative, and I really appreciate that.
No, really good. Franco, again, if you want me to have a look at anything, very happy to do that. Basically, I mean, if I can be of some help, then let me know. That goes for you and everyone else, basically, on the call and whoever listens to it.
Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate that. Really, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Keep well, keep safe, keep going, and reach out, connect, and let's see how we can help each other. And yes, we will definitely be sending everybody that's attended a link to the recording and the resources that we've spoken about on the webinar.
Great, great. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.